I try not to look at the number of years or whatever. I try to stay away from that and stay focused on the one thing that matters, that she's not here and I need to get her home.
As of this month, December 2023, a young woman's family has been missing her for 20 years. Only 19 at the time that she went missing, she would now be approaching her 40th birthday. There have been very few leads over the years, but that hasn't stopped her mother from working to find the truth and helping some other people along the way. It's time to turn on the searchlight for LaQuanta Riley. Welcome back to Brain Scratch Searchlight. I'm John Lordan. This is our final episode on the channel for the year, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for supporting Searchlight, Brain Scratch, and all the other shows that we worked on so hard throughout 2023. I also wanted to give a special thank you to Christy Arnhart for keeping Searchlight rolling with our weekly profiles this year, and thank you, of course, for caring about these cases like we at LordanArts do. Now let's learn more about our final case for 2023, missing person LaQuanta Riley. Life for a single mother can be very hard, especially when you're barely an adult yourself. 16-year-old Pam Riley realized this when she gave birth to her daughter, LaQuanta, on February 26, 1984. Thankfully, in some cases, family members stepped forward to help, and that's exactly what Pam's relatives did. As many of us have heard, it takes a village. LaQuanta would spend her childhood living with her Aunt Katie Smith. Even though mother and daughter weren't living together, they still had a strong relationship. LaQuanta and Pam kept in touch through letters and telephone calls, with Pam always cherishing LaQuanta's most recent school picture. In total, LaQuanta had 5 younger siblings. Sadly, her youngest sister passed away in 1996 when LaQuanta was only 12 years old. Her sister Kamisha was sexually assaulted by an older man in 1992, and she contracted HIV. In 1996, she died from the illness. Before that, her family was affected by more tragedy when another family member was killed during a domestic violence dispute. Despite the trouble and the heartache, they were always there to support LaQuanta. In time, she grew close to her cousin, Stacy Riley, and formed a friendship that seemed to ease the pain of her sister's passing. Known as Quanta or Quanta to her friends and family, she loved to cook, she was bright and bubbly and excelled in every endeavor. She played the clarinet in the school band from middle school through high school. In 2002, she graduated with honors from Redan High School in Stone Mountain, Georgia, and LaQuanta had earned a full scholarship to college where she planned to study forensic science and criminal justice. In 2003, then 19-year-old LaQuanta was living with a high school friend in Eufaula, Alabama. Sometime before Thanksgiving, she and her roommate had a disagreement, and LaQuanta decided to move out of the apartment and back in with her family. On December 5th, LaQuanta decided to travel back to the apartment to gather the rest of her belongings. Later that same day, Pam received a call from her daughter asking if she could drive from her home in Montgomery, Alabama, to pick LaQuanta up. Montgomery is the capital city of Alabama and the county seat of Montgomery County, named for Continental Army Major General Richard Montgomery. It sits beside the Alabama River on the coastal plain of the Gulf of Mexico. Wikipedia notes that with a population of over 200,000 people, it's the second most populous city in Alabama after Huntsville. But it's also known for some other things. In February of 1861, Montgomery was chosen as the first capital of the Confederate States of America, which it remained until the Confederate seat of government moved to Richmond, Virginia. 100 years later, Montgomery was a major center of events and protests in the civil rights movement, including the Montgomery bus boycott and the Selma to Montgomery marches. On that phone call, Pam heard something in her daughter's voice that told her that LaQuanta was upset, but she didn't think it was right to ask why. Even though mother and daughter were close, they didn't have the kind of relationship that would have allowed those types of questions. Unfortunately, she was unable to pick LaQuanta up, and LaQuanta found someone else to take her to her Aunt Katie's home. She ended up staying with her aunt on South Rick Drive, At that time, her mother was living only about 3 miles away on Hill Street. LaQuanta's 18-year-old cousin Stacy was also staying with Aunt Katie, and there was one big rule that the girls were made to follow. No boys were allowed to visit the girls at the house. LaQuanta didn't like that rule and had complained to her mother about it on several occasions. With Christmas approaching, the whole family was excited. Every year, each family member wears a special Christmas outfit to the big family dinner. It was early December, and LaQuanta had already decided on her Christmas outfit, a pair of blue jeans with a brown and white swirl design top that she bought specifically for the occasion. On December 7th, while Katie was in Stone Mountain visiting relatives, LaQuanta and Katie's son got into an argument, again, over the no males rule at the house. She called her Aunt Katie, who eventually calmed her down, telling her not to worry about the fight. Later that night, LaQuanta decided to go out, and she had someone pick her up. It was cold that night, and at 11:30 p.m., she went to her mother's home to pick up her coat. Her brother, Dana, met her at the door and was surprised to see her getting out of a dark green, four-door Ford Taurus or a Chevrolet Caprice, he couldn't tell which. This was a car that he had never seen before, and he couldn't see the driver's face. When he asked LaQuanta who was in the car, she replied, a friend she met around the street. After she retrieved her coat, LaQuanta got into the back seat of the car, and it drove away. This was the last time LaQuanta's family would see her. 3 days later, when no one had heard from LaQuanta or been able to find her, Pam reported her missing. LaQuanta had left that night only with her coat. Her purse and her money were left behind. When the police started working on the case, they hit many roadblocks within the community. No one wanted to talk to them. And because it was a missing persons case and not a criminal case, there was really nothing that the police could do about that. This left her family feeling desperate and looking for answers, wondering who was that person that she was last seen with. Pam is under the impression that LaQuanta had not known this person for very long. Sometime after LaQuanta disappeared, Pam received a message that would change everything. One day, after returning home, she realized that she had a message on her answering machine, but it sounded like LaQuanta. Although the message isn't clear, she could hear her daughter say either, "Let me go home," or "Leave me alone." Suddenly, a male voice can be heard saying LaQuanta in the background before the call was cut off. Quote, "She is distraught on here. She's asking for help. I don't know what she's saying. She's crying so hard," Pam told WSFA-TV. Investigators were called and a copy was made of that message. Sadly, after years of listening to the message, trying to figure out more about it, Pam's original recording was unfortunately lost, due in part to a power outage. Investigators were never able to trace where that call originated from. Even stranger, later in the investigation, an apartment in Stone Mountain, Georgia, was found to have been rented using LaQuanta's name. That's the same area where she had attended high school. It's unknown if the police followed up on this lead, but Pam did. She traveled to Stone Mountain and began to show LaQuanta's picture to the residents of that apartment complex in an effort to find out more about her or more information that they might have about her missing daughter. One man who had lived at the location for about 2 years said that LaQuanta had lived just down the hall from him for a short time. He remembered that one day she had asked to use his phone after she had been in an argument with someone. Unfortunately, that was all the information that the man had. Since LaQuanta's disappearance, investigators say that her case is still active. There have been several different detectives assigned to the case. They've checked area hospitals, jails, and places where LaQuanta was known to hang out. Checks with the National Crime Information Center, or NCIC, have yielded no results. There have also been no substantial leads really in this case, but there's also no indications of foul play, even though her family does feel that LaQuanta was likely the victim of some type of crime. They argue that they were all too close of a family for her to disappear voluntarily. Most of the time that investigators have spent on this case was tracking down individual tips, and each of those leading to a dead end. At one point, a tip was received that said that LaQuanta had been killed and buried. One inmate said that he had witnessed her murder and that her body had been left in Cooter's Pond in Prattville. Later, that inmate recanted his confession. Today, LaQuanta's case is cold, and it needs new information to revive it. The last person to see LaQuanta alive, Pam's son Dana, was murdered recently in a shooting. The recording that police took of the distraught phone call from Pam's answering machine has reportedly also been lost, as well as some of the other evidence that has been originally collected in this case. Today, Pam continues to advocate for her daughter. She's very vocal in her belief that investigators didn't do enough when her daughter disappeared. She says that phone records were never checked, and Katie's home was never searched for potential evidence. And the information on disappearances like this does validate that. The Montgomery Advisor wrote that, quote, although Black women make up less than 7% of the U.S. population, they represent about 10% of all missing persons cases throughout the country. Estimates by the Black and Missing Foundation put the total number of disappeared Black women and girls at 64,000. Black girls are often classified as runaways rather than missing persons, shifting the focus from public safety to personal responsibility. Pam believes that LaQuanta is still alive. She wants her to know that she is always welcome at home. She regrets not asking more questions about the fight that LaQuanta had in Stone Mountain before she moved back home. She feels that if she knew more about that fight, it might give her some valuable insight into her daughter's disappearance. There have been some beacons of hope that have helped Pam through the years. She was introduced to Project Jason, a nonprofit organization for families of missing people, and since that time, Pam has founded her own organization. The Riley Relief Foundation provides support for people in Alabama who have missing loved ones to give them connections, resources, and of course, support from someone who's going through a very similar situation. She also works with NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's Team Hope, a peer support program that allows her to help families of missing and exploited children. Pam says, we're trying to find ways to get the faces of the missing out there, not just on special days, but every day. When LaQuanta went missing, I knew nothing about flyers. Today, I know that if I can't do anything else, I can put up flyers. To make sure that no one forgets LaQuanta, every year on the anniversary of her disappearance, a candlelight vigil is held, and on her birthday, balloons are released. Today, Pam is pushing for a new investigation, and she believes that new technology could help develop leads and maybe help figure out what happened to LaQuanta. LaQuanta has black hair and brown eyes. She stands at 5 foot 8 inches tall and weighs around 200 pounds. She has her ears pierced, as well as a silver barbell tongue piercing. She was 19 when she went missing on December 7th, 2003, and would be 39 years old today. She has a tattoo on her bicep that says R.I.P. Misha and LaQuanta tattooed on her other bicep. She was last seen wearing stonewash blue jeans, a yellow and green Echo shirt, yellow and green Reebok sneakers, and a silver chain bracelet. She also has a scar on her nose. Please share this video with friends and acquaintances in Alabama, Georgia, and the surrounding states to help us raise awareness to this case. If you have any information on the car, the driver, or the location of LaQuanta, please call the Montgomery Police Department at 334-625-2831. If you need to remain anonymous for some reason, you can also call Secret Witness at 334-262-4000. No detail is too small. An $11,000 reward is being offered for information that leads to solving this case. Since 2015, we've always run limited commercial ads for the benefit of the viewers and the families that we're trying to help. Obviously, we can't do that without support. A big thank you to PayPal supporters Hillary Green, Brandy Fry, and Angela Welch Sola. If you'd like to help, please visit LordanArts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee like Candy Bishop recently did. We truly appreciate your support on our mission to run as few ads as possible while we're helping as many different families as we can. Also, a big thank you to everyone that is rallying around Pam to support her and her family in their search for LaQuanta. Let's keep those eyes, ears, and hearts open and looking for LaQuanta Riley. We will be back next year with Brain Scratch, Searchlight, Seriously Mysterious, and maybe even a new show or two. Enjoy the holidays, and we will see you in 2024. I'll see you again here soon on the LordanArts channel.